My name is Catherine Wells. I'm 41 years old, and I'm a high school English teacher from Boston, Massachusetts. 8 months ago, I was in a medically induced coma in the ICU after a near-fatal car accident. My husband of 16 years stood at my bedside, held my hand, and told my doctor to stop treatment and let me die. He said it was what I would have wanted. He said keeping me alive was cruel. He cried as he signed the Do Not Resuscitate order. What my husband didn't know was 3 things. First, I could hear everything. Second, a night shift nurse named Jennifer had overheard him discussing life insurance payouts with his mistress in the hallway and had started recording every conversation. And third, I wasn't brain dead like he'd told everyone. I was fighting my way back to consciousness with every fiber of my being. When I finally woke up 5 days before they were scheduled to withdraw life support, the look on my husband's face wasn't relief. It was pure horror. Because he knew I'd survived. And what he didn't know yet was that I had evidence of everything he'd tried to do. Before I tell you exactly what happened and how that recording destroyed him, I need you to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Stories like mine could save someone's life. Drop your location in the comments. I want to know where you're watching from because domestic violence doesn't have borders. Let me take you back to the beginning, to when I thought I'd married my best friend. I met Marcus Wells in the summer of 2006 at a literature conference in Martha's Vineyard. I was 25, fresh out of graduate school with my master's degree in English literature, about to start my first teaching position at a prestigious private high school in Boston. He was 28, charming, and working as an investment advisor at a boutique firm in the financial district. We met at a wine tasting event after one of the conference sessions. I was there because I loved poetry and classics. He was there because his firm was sponsoring the event. "So," he said, approaching me with 2 glasses of wine, "do you actually enjoy these conferences, or are you just here for the free wine like I am?" I laughed despite myself. I genuinely love them. Literature is my entire world. "Then you're exactly the person I need to meet," he said, handing me a glass. "I'm Marcus. I spend all day talking about money, which is mind-numbingly boring. Tell me something beautiful. What's your favorite poem?" No one had ever asked me that on first meeting. I quoted Yeats, "Had I the heavens embroidered cloths," and watched his face light up with genuine interest. We talked for 3 hours straight, about books, about dreams, about his childhood in Connecticut and mine in Providence, about how he wanted to build wealth to create security his family never had, and how I wanted to shape young minds the way my favorite teachers had shaped mine. He walked me back to my hotel that night, and before I went inside, he said, "Catherine, I know this sounds insane, but I think you might be the most interesting person I've ever met. Can I take you to dinner tomorrow?" We spent the entire weekend together. Long walks on the beach, breakfast at seaside cafes, deep conversations about life and purpose and what we wanted our futures to look like. When the conference ended, he drove back to Boston with me, even though he'd flown in, just so we could have 3 more hours together. The courtship that followed was like something from a romance novel. Marcus pursued me with thoughtful intensity. He'd leave books on my doorstep, first editions of classics I'd mentioned loving. He'd send me texts with poetry he'd found that reminded him of me. He came to my classroom after school just to watch me grade papers, saying he loved seeing me in my element. 6 months in, he took me to the public garden in autumn to the exact bench where the make way for duckling statues were, and said, "Catherine, you make me want to read more, think more, be more. I was living a shallow life before I met you, and you've given it depth and meaning. I love you." I fell completely, utterly in love with him. He was smart, ambitious, generous with his time and attention. He remembered every detail about my life, my students' names, my mother's birthday, the specific shade of blue I said was my favorite. He met my family and charmed them all. My father, a retired police detective who trusted no one, actually pulled me aside and said, "Catherine, that man adores you. Hold on to him." Marcus proposed 14 months after we met, on the same Martha's Vineyard beach where we'd first walked together. He rented out an entire restaurant for the evening, filled it with peonies and string lights, and got down on one knee with a vintage emerald ring, my birthstone, that had belonged to his grandmother. "Catherine Marie Porter," he said, his voice shaking. "You are brilliant, compassionate, and so beautiful it hurts to look at you. Will you marry me and let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you?" I said yes before he finished the question. How could I not? This man saw me, valued me, loved me for my mind as much as anything else. He supported my career even though teaching didn't pay much. He talked about our future children and the books we'd read to them. He was everything I'd ever wanted. We married in October 2007 in a ceremony at the Boston Public Library, surrounded by books and literature, perfect for us. I wore a vintage lace gown and Marcus wore a navy suit with a green tie to match my ring. We wrote our own vows. I promised to be his partner in building a life filled with love, learning, and adventure. He promised to protect me, support my dreams, and make sure I always knew how extraordinary he thought I was. "Catherine," he said at the altar, tears in his eyes, "I vow to be your safe harbor, your home, the person who always believes in you, even when you doubt yourself. I will love you fiercely, protect you completely, and never let you face this world alone." Our first years of marriage were blissful. Marcus's career took off. He made partner at his investment firm within 3 years. We bought a beautiful brownstone in Beacon Hill with a library that had floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. He fully supported my decision to stay in teaching rather than pursue a more lucrative career. "Your work matters," he'd say. "You're shaping lives. Money isn't everything." We traveled during summer breaks. Paris, London, Edinburgh, all the literary cities I'd dreamed of visiting. Marcus would wake up early to surprise me with croissants and coffee, plan entire days around bookstores and museums, and never once complain about my tendency to spend hours in libraries. We had our son, Oliver, in 2010. Marcus was present for every moment: birth classes, doctor's appointments, midnight feedings. When Oliver was born, I watched this ambitious, driven man cry as he held his son for the first time. "He's perfect, Catherine. You're perfect. I'm the luckiest man in the world." Our daughter, Lily, came in 2013. By then, Marcus had been recruited by a larger firm with an enormous salary increase. We paid off my student loans completely. We hired a part-time nanny so I could focus on teaching without guilt. We took family vacations to Disney World and the Cape. Life was everything I'd imagined it would be. Marcus was an involved father. He coached Oliver's Little League team. He never missed Lily's ballet recitals. He'd come to my school's parent-teacher nights and afterwards tell me how proud he was to be married to such a dedicated educator. Our friends envied our relationship. My family loved him. Colleagues at school called us relationship goals. I looked at our life, the beautiful home filled with books, the healthy children, the careers we both loved, the partnership that felt so solid, and thought, this is happiness. This is what forever looks like. Marcus would hold me at night and whisper, "You're my everything, Catherine. I can't imagine my life without you." And I believed him with my whole heart. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have possibly imagined, was that Marcus had started calculating my worth. Not the value of my mind or my love or my partnership, my literal financial worth. The life insurance policy he'd convinced me to take out. The beneficiary designation that made him sole heir to everything if I died. The inheritance I was set to receive from my grandmother, who was in failing health. He'd already decided I was worth more to him dead than alive, and he was just waiting for the right opportunity to make it happen. I thought I knew the man sleeping beside me every night. I thought our love was unshakable. I thought the vows he'd spoken were sacred. But what I didn't know was that the man I'd married was already planning my murder. And it started with small things that I almost didn't notice when everything began to change. The first sign something was wrong came in early 2015, about 8 years into our marriage. I was grading papers in our home library when Marcus came in with a stack of documents and a serious expression. "Catherine, we need to talk about our finances. Sit down." I set down my pen, confused. We'd always been financially stable. Marcus handled our investments, and I trusted him completely. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, but we need to be smart about protecting our family." He spread out insurance documents across my desk. "I've been talking to our financial advisor. With 2 kids, we need more life insurance. Substantial coverage. If something happens to either of us, the other needs to be taken care of." "Okay," I said slowly. "How much are we talking about?" $2 million on you, $3 million on me, since I'm the primary earner." My stomach dropped. $2 million? Marcus, that seems excessive. I'm a teacher. My salary is $65,000 a year. That's exactly why we need it. If something happens to you, I'll need to pay for childcare, housekeeping, all the things you do that I can't put a price on. Plus, there's your future earning potential over 30 years. "Catherine, this is about protecting our children." He made it sound so reasonable, so logical. And I trusted him. He was the financial expert after all. "If you think it's necessary." "I do. And we should both have medical directives too, living wills. You know, in case either of us ends up in a situation where we can't make decisions." He pulled out more forms. "I've already filled out mine. You're my healthcare proxy, obviously. You'd make the call if I were ever incapacitated." "God, Marcus, that's morbid." "It's responsible. We have children, Catherine. We need to plan for worst-case scenarios." He handed me a pen. "Just sign here, here, and here. It says that if you're ever in a vegetative state or brain dead, I have the authority to make medical decisions, including withdrawing life support." I should have read it more carefully. I should have taken it to a lawyer. But this was my husband, the man who'd vowed to protect me, the father of my children. Why would I question his motives? I signed everything. "There," Marcus said, gathering the papers with a satisfied smile. "Now our family is protected." The second incident that should have alarmed me happened 2 months later. I had a bad flu. Nothing serious, just a nasty virus that had me in bed for a few days. Marcus was incredibly attentive, bringing me soup, checking my temperature, making sure I stayed hydrated. But one evening, I woke up from a nap and overheard him on the phone in the hallway. "Not serious enough. Just a flu. We need to be patient." "I know, baby, I know. But it has to look natural. An accident or—" "Yes, I've thought about that. The life insurance pays double for accidental death." Sat up, my heart pounding. Who was he talking to? What had to look natural? When he came back in, I asked, "Who was on the phone?" He barely hesitated. "Client. You know how demanding they are. Go back to sleep, honey. You need rest." I told myself I'd misheard, that the flu had made me foggy, that my husband wasn't discussing making something look natural and collecting life insurance. That was insane. That was paranoid. Marcus loved me, but a seed of doubt had been planted. The third red flag came a month later when I noticed Marcus had hired a new assistant at his firm. Her name was Vanessa Chen, 26, stunning, with an MBA from Wharton. Marcus suddenly had a lot of late nights at the office, a lot of weekend client meetings, a lot of business trips that he'd never needed before. "Marcus, you're barely home anymore," I said one evening after he'd missed Oliver's baseball game. "The kids are asking where you are." "I'm building our future, Catherine. This promotion doesn't come easy. I need you to be supportive right now, not nagging me about my schedule." Nagging. He'd never used that word before. It felt like a slap. "I'm not nagging. I'm telling you that your son asked me why Daddy doesn't love us anymore." His face softened instantly. "God, Catherine, I'm sorry. You're right. I'll do better. How about we plan a family vacation? Martha's Vineyard next month. Just the four of us. I'll take a whole week off." And just like that, my concerns evaporated. See, he was just stressed with work. He still loved us. He was still the devoted husband and father I'd married. But things kept getting stranger. Marcus started asking me about my exercise routine. Was I running regularly? Maybe I should join him at the gym, do some high-intensity workouts. He bought me a road bike for my birthday, even though I'd never expressed interest in cycling. "You should ride to school sometimes," he suggested. "The route along Storrow Drive is beautiful in the morning." "Marcus, that route is dangerous. Cars go 70 miles per hour there." "You're a good rider. You'll be fine. I just think it's important for you to stay active. You know, for your health." Looking back now, I can see he was setting something up, creating opportunities. But at the time, I just thought he was being health conscious. The real alarm bells should have started ringing when my grandmother passed away that October and left me her estate. $800,000, her house in Cape Cod, and her investment portfolio worth another $500,000. Marcus seemed thrilled at first. "This is amazing, Catherine. We can pay off the house, set up college funds for the kids, maybe buy a vacation property." But then I told him about my grandmother's will stipulation. The inheritance was in a trust that I controlled solely. Marcus couldn't access it without my signature. It was my grandmother's way of ensuring I'd always have financial independence. His reaction was subtle but chilling. His smile froze for just a second. His eyes went cold. "Why would she do that? Doesn't she trust me? We're married, Catherine. What's yours is mine." "It's just a formality, Marcus. My grandmother was old-fashioned about women having their own money." "It's insulting," he said quietly. "After everything I've done for this family, after giving you this life, she didn't trust me with her granddaughter's inheritance?" "Marcus, it's not personal. Everything is personal when it comes to family and money, Catherine." That night, I heard him on the phone again. "Can't touch it. It's in her name only. I know. Believe me, I know. There's only one way now. We need to accelerate the timeline before she changes the life insurance beneficiary or updates her will." I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was grieving my grandmother and hearing things that weren't there, that Marcus's stress about his promotion was making him talk in ways that sounded sinister but weren't. I rationalized every single red flag, because the alternative, that my husband of 8 years was planning something terrible, was too horrible to contemplate. My best friend Sarah noticed something was off when we met for coffee in November. "Catherine, you seem anxious. Is everything okay with you and Marcus?" "Everything's fine. He's just been stressed with work." "He was strange at your grandmother's funeral. Almost happy. Is that weird to say?" "He was trying to be supportive. Sometimes people don't know how to act at funerals." Sarah studied me carefully. "Catherine, you know you can tell me anything, right? If something's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I insisted. I promise. Marcus and I are solid. But I wasn't solid. I started having trouble sleeping. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and find Marcus awake too, staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. When I'd ask what was wrong, he'd say, "Nothing, baby. Just thinking about how much I love you. Go back to sleep." Those words should have been comforting. Instead, they felt like a threat. In December, Marcus surprised me with an early Christmas gift, a weekend getaway to Vermont, just the two of us. My parents would watch the kids. We'd stay at a beautiful ski resort. It would be romantic. "I've been a terrible husband lately," he said. "Let me make it up to you. We need this time together." I should have been happy. Instead, I felt dread. Something about the way he looked at me, like he was memorizing my face, made my skin crawl. I called Sarah from my classroom. "He wants to take me to Vermont, skiing. And Sarah, I'm terrified." "Of what?" "I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. But my gut is screaming at me that something's wrong." "Then don't go, Catherine. Trust your instincts." But how could I explain that to Marcus? How could I say, "I think you're planning to hurt me," without sounding insane, without destroying our marriage if I was wrong? I went to Vermont. We skied. We had romantic dinners. Marcus was attentive and loving, and I told myself I'd been paranoid. We came home safely, and I felt foolish for my fears. But what I didn't know was that Marcus had been disappointed. He'd planned for an accident on the slopes, a tragic skiing death, his wife hitting a tree, an unfortunate but understandable risk of the sport. But I'd been too cautious, too careful. His opportunity hadn't materialized. So he'd started working on Plan B, something more controllable, something that looked like an accident but gave him complete control over the outcome. He just needed the right circumstances, and 3 months later, those circumstances would fall into his lap like a gift from fate. The night that changed everything was March 14th, 2016, a Monday. I was driving home from a faculty meeting at 9 p.m., exhausted after a long day of teaching and parent conferences. The route I always took was Memorial Drive along the Charles River. Familiar, well-lit, normally safe. I never saw the other car coming. Later, police reports would show that a drunk driver ran a red light at a T intersection and hit my Honda Civic at 60 miles per hour, T-boning directly into my driver's side door. The impact was catastrophic. My car spun 3 times before slamming into a concrete barrier. I don't remember the collision. I don't remember the sound of metal crushing or glass shattering. What I remember is a sudden, violent jolt, then nothing. Just darkness. Complete, absolute darkness. The first responders who arrived said I was unconscious and barely breathing. Traumatic brain injury, multiple broken ribs, punctured lung, internal bleeding, shattered pelvis. They had to use the jaws of life to extract me from the wreckage. I was rushed to Massachusetts General Hospital with a police escort, sirens screaming through the Boston streets. I was in surgery for 11 hours. The trauma team worked to repair my spleen, stop the internal bleeding, relieve pressure on my brain. When they finished, they put me in a medically induced coma to give my brain time to heal. The swelling was severe. They couldn't predict when or if I'd wake up. Marcus arrived at the hospital around midnight, according to the nurse's notes. He'd been called by the police. He came running into the ICU, they said, frantic with worry, demanding to know what happened to his wife. But what none of them knew yet was what Marcus had whispered to himself in the elevator on the way to my floor. Thank God. Finally. The first 48 hours were critical. My parents drove up from Providence immediately. My sister flew in from California. Marcus called everyone, friends, colleagues, family, telling them there'd been a terrible accident, that I might not make it, that they should prepare for the worst. He played the devastated husband perfectly. He sat at my bedside holding my hand, talking to me even though I couldn't respond. He brought photos of Oliver and Lily, placed them where I could theoretically see them if I woke up. He spoke to doctors about my condition, asked detailed questions about treatment options, requested additional consultations. "Whatever it takes," he told my neurosurgeon, Dr. Alan Park. "Cost doesn't matter. I want the best care possible for my wife." Dr. Park was impressed by Marcus's devotion. So were the nurses. So was my family. Here was a man who truly loved his wife, who wouldn't leave her side, who was fighting for her life with everything he had. But on the third night, after visiting hours ended and my family had gone home to rest, Marcus stayed late. He waited until the ICU was quiet, until the nurse assigned to me stepped out to check on another patient. And then he leaned close to my ear and whispered something the monitor couldn't record. "I need you to die, Catherine. I'm sorry, but this is perfect. An accident. No one can blame me. The insurance pays double for accidental death. That's $4 million, plus your inheritance, plus our assets. I'll be set for life, and Vanessa and I can finally be together. The kids will adjust. Children are resilient." I heard him. I heard every single word. People who've been in comas describe it differently, but for me, it was like being trapped in a glass box. I could hear conversations, sense presences, feel touches, but I couldn't respond. Couldn't move, couldn't open my eyes or speak or let anyone know I was still in there, still conscious, still fighting. And I just heard my husband admit he wanted me dead. Terror flooded through me, but my body wouldn't respond. I couldn't scream, couldn't pull away, couldn't do anything except lie there and listen as Marcus continued. "The doctors say you might have severe brain damage even if you wake up. Maybe you'll be a vegetable. That would be even better, honestly. I can withdraw life support, and everyone will think I'm being merciful. Either way, Catherine, you're not coming back from this. I'm going to make sure of it." He kissed my forehead, a gesture that would have looked loving to anyone watching, and left the ICU with the satisfied expression of a man whose problems were solving themselves. I've never felt more helpless in my life. I was trapped in my own body, listening to my husband plot my murder, unable to warn anyone or protect myself. The monitors showed my heart rate had spiked, but the nurses who came to check on me couldn't find any obvious cause and chalked it up to normal fluctuations in a coma patient. Over the next week, Marcus's campaign to end my life began in earnest. He met with Dr. Park and carefully, skillfully, started planting seeds of doubt about my recovery. "Doctor, I need you to be honest with me. What are Catherine's real chances here? Not the hopeful version. The truth." Dr. Park, a kind man who believed in radical honesty, explained that my traumatic brain injury was severe. "Mr. Wells, the swelling is still significant. We won't know the extent of the damage until she wakes up. She could make a full recovery. She could have cognitive deficits. In worst-case scenarios, she might remain in a persistent vegetative state." "Vegetative state," Marcus repeated, his voice breaking with perfectly performed grief. "So she might never really be Catherine again? She might be gone, even if her body's still alive. It's too early to say, but it's possible." "It's possible, yes." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell Dr. Park that I was still here, still myself, still conscious. But I was locked in silence. Marcus used that conversation to start talking to my family about quality of life and what Catherine would want. He reminded my mother about the living will we'd signed, about how I'd told him I'd never want to be kept alive by machines if there was no hope of recovery. I'd never said that. I'd never discussed end-of-life wishes with Marcus beyond signing those forms he'd put in front of me. But my mother couldn't know that. "She's so young," my mother sobbed. "There's still hope. We can't give up on her." "I would never give up on her, Joan," Marcus said, putting his arm around my mother's shoulders. "But we also have to be realistic. Catherine wouldn't want to exist as a shell. She's an English teacher. Her mind is everything to her. If that's gone..." The second incident that should have exposed him happened on day 9. Vanessa Chen came to visit the hospital, supposedly as Marcus's concerned employee, bringing coffee and support for her grieving boss. But a night nurse named Jennifer Reyes, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, noticed something odd. She saw Marcus and Vanessa in the family waiting room, sitting too close, Vanessa's hand on Marcus's thigh. Marcus leaning in to whisper something that made Vanessa smile. And then, when they thought no one was watching, Marcus kissed her. Not a friendly peck, a deep, passionate kiss of lovers who couldn't wait to be together. Jennifer's blood ran cold. This man's wife was in a coma in the ICU, fighting for her life, and he was kissing another woman in the hospital waiting room? She didn't confront them. Not yet. She was a nurse who'd seen enough family dynamics to know that sometimes things weren't what they seemed. Maybe they had an open marriage. Maybe Catherine knew about Vanessa. Jennifer didn't want to assume, but she started paying closer attention to Marcus, and what she noticed made her increasingly uneasy. The way he always asked about my prognosis in a tone that seemed hopeful when I got worse. The way he'd look almost disappointed when Dr. Park reported that my brain swelling was decreasing. The subtle questions he asked about when life support might be withdrawn, framed as concern, but feeling more like impatience. And then, on night 12, Jennifer overheard a conversation that changed everything. She was doing rounds at 2 a.m., checking on patients, when she passed the family consultation room and heard voices, Marcus and Vanessa. She should have knocked, announced herself. Instead, something told her to stay quiet and listen. "Can't wait much longer," Vanessa was saying. "The longer she's in this coma, the more chance she'll wake up. You need to convince the doctors to withdraw support now." "I'm working on it, baby. Dr. Park is being stubborn. He keeps saying there are signs of brain activity, that we should give her more time." "Signs of brain activity?" Vanessa's voice was sharp. "That's bad, Marcus. That means she might wake up. What if she heard you that night? What if she knows?" "She can't have heard anything. She's in a coma. Trust me, even if she wakes up, she'll have severe brain damage. She won't remember. She won't be able to tell anyone. You better be right, because if this goes sideways, we're both going to prison. Murder, conspiracy, insurance fraud. It's not going sideways. I've been careful. I have her living will. I'm her healthcare proxy. I can authorize withdrawing life support, and everyone will think I'm being merciful. Once she's gone, we wait a respectful 6 months. Then we can be together. The insurance money, her inheritance, we'll have everything, Vanessa. Just trust me." Jennifer stood frozen in the hallway, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. This man was planning to murder his wife, to withdraw life support from a woman who might still recover, all for money and to be with his mistress. She had to do something. But who would believe her? She was a night shift nurse, and Marcus was a wealthy investment advisor with a spotless reputation. She needed proof, so Jennifer Reyes did something that could have cost her her job. She started recording everything. She bought a small recording device that fit in her scrub pocket. Every time Marcus came to the ICU, every conversation he had with doctors, every whispered exchange with Vanessa, Jennifer captured it all. The third and worst incident came on day 16. Dr. Park called a family meeting to discuss my condition. My parents, my sister, Marcus, and the medical team gathered in a consultation room while I lay in my ICU bed, still unable to move or speak, but aware of everything happening around me. Dr. Park explained that my brain swelling had decreased significantly. The scans showed activity. I was breathing partially on my own. These were all good signs. "So she's getting better?" my father asked, hope clear in his voice. "Her body is healing, yes, but we still don't know what cognitive function she'll have when she wakes up. If she wakes up, I don't want to give false hope, but I'm cautiously optimistic." I could feel joy radiating from my parents, from my sister. They thought I was coming back. They thought there was hope. But Marcus's response was different. "Doctor, I need to ask a difficult question. If Catherine does wake up but has severe brain damage, if she's not herself anymore, what then? Do we just keep her alive indefinitely?" The room went silent. My mother gasped. "Marcus, she's your wife." "And I love her more than anything," Marcus interrupted, his voice thick with false emotion. "Which is why I have to consider what she'd want. Catherine is brilliant. Her mind is her whole identity. If that's gone, if she's just a body with no thoughts or personality or memory, is that living? Or is that cruelty?" Dr. Park tried to interject. "Mr. Wells, we're not at that point, but we might be. And when we are, I need everyone in this room to understand that Catherine signed a living will. She gave me power to make medical decisions, and if my wife is gone, if the woman I married doesn't exist anymore, I'm not going to let her body suffer just because we can't let go." My sister stood up, her voice shaking with anger. "Marcus, Dr. Park just said she's showing signs of improvement. Why are you already talking about withdrawing life support?" "Because I'm being realistic, Jessica. Because I'm thinking about what's best for Catherine, not what makes us feel better." The argument escalated. My parents and sister insisted there was still hope. Marcus kept pushing the narrative that keeping me alive might be selfish. And through it all, Dr. Park tried to mediate, to remind everyone that these decisions didn't need to be made yet. But that night, after everyone left, Marcus sat beside my bed and whispered the truth. "I'm running out of time, Catherine. Your family is pushing back. Dr. Park won't authorize withdrawal. I need you to either die or wake up so damaged that everyone agrees keeping you alive is pointless. I'm going to talk to Dr. Park about increasing your sedation. For your comfort, of course. And maybe, just maybe, that extra medication will make sure you never wake up at all." If this resonates with you, if you've ever felt helpless while someone plotted against you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Because what happened next, how a nurse's secret recording saved my life, might help someone else recognize the signs before it's too late. On day 17, something remarkable happened inside my broken body. The fog that had surrounded my consciousness began to lift, like dawn breaking through thick clouds. I still couldn't move or open my eyes, but my awareness sharpened. I could differentiate between voices. I could track conversations from beginning to end. I could understand the gravity of my situation with terrifying clarity. Marcus was going to kill me. And unless I could find a way to wake up and warn someone, he was going to succeed. I focused every ounce of will on moving something, anything. A finger, a toe, an eyelid. Medical science says coma patients can't consciously control their bodies, but I was determined to prove that wrong. Hour after hour, I concentrated on my right hand. Move, move, move. Nothing happened. My body remained stubbornly unresponsive, locked. in its prison of damaged nerves and healing tissue. But Jennifer Reyes had noticed something the doctors hadn't. During her night shifts, when the ICU was quietest, she'd talk to me while doing my care, checking my vitals, adjusting my IVs, repositioning my body to prevent bed sores. She'd tell me about her day, about her teenage daughter's college applications, about the book she was reading. She treated me like a person, not a body. And she'd noticed that my heart rate changed when certain people entered the room. When my parents or sister visited, my heart rate would elevate slightly, a pattern consistent with recognition. When Marcus came in, my heart rate would spike dramatically, and my blood pressure would rise. The monitors showed signs of stress, even fear. "Catherine," Jennifer whispered one night when we were alone, "if you can hear me, I need you to know I'm going to help you. I know what your husband is planning. I've been recording everything, but I need you to wake up. I need you to fight your way back, because I can't save you on my own." I wanted to scream that I was trying, that I was fighting with everything I had. My heart rate spiked on the monitor, and Jennifer noticed. "Okay," she said softly, watching the screen. "Okay, you're in there. I know you are. Your heart rate just jumped when I said I'd help you. Can you do that again? Can you make your heart rate change on purpose?" I focused with everything I had. Make my heart beat faster. Make the monitor show that I was here, that I understood. After what felt like an eternity, the number crept up, from 72 to 78 to 85. Jennifer's eyes widened. "Oh my God, you can hear me. You're conscious." She grabbed the call button and summoned Dr. Park immediately. When he arrived, groggy from being woken at 3 a.m., Jennifer explained what she'd observed. "Dr. Park, I believe Catherine is more conscious than we realized. Watch her heart rate when I talk to her." Dr. Park was skeptical but willing to investigate. He stood at my bedside and spoke clearly. "Catherine, if you can hear me and understand me, try to change your heart rate. Make it speed up." I concentrated with desperate intensity. The numbers climbed. 85, 90, 95, 100. "Now slow it down if you can," Dr. Park instructed. I focused on breathing, on calming, on making the numbers drop. Slowly, painfully, they decreased back to 88. Dr. Park's expression shifted from skepticism to amazement. "This is remarkable. She's demonstrating purposeful control of autonomic responses. That suggests not only consciousness, but cognitive function. We need to run more tests immediately." Over the next 24 hours, Dr. Park performed a series of evaluations. He'd ask me yes or no questions and instruct me to change my heart rate once for yes, twice for no. It was exhausting, requiring immense concentration, but I could do it. "Catherine, can you hear me?" One spike. Yes. "Are you in pain?" Two spikes. No. "Do you know where you are?" One spike. Yes. "Do you know your husband?" One spike. Yes. Then Dr. Park asked a question that changed everything. "Catherine, are you afraid of your husband?" I made my heart rate spike so dramatically that alarms went off. The monitor showed 140 beats per minute, a clear, unmistakable response. Dr. Park and Jennifer exchanged glances. "Why would she be afraid of her husband?" Dr. Park asked. "Because," Jennifer said quietly, "I've been recording his conversations, and he's planning to withdraw her life support so he can collect her life insurance and be with his mistress. Dr. Park, I think we're dealing with attempted murder." She pulled out her recording device and played some of what she'd captured. Dr. Park's face went from confused to horrified as he listened to Marcus discussing insurance payouts, talking about making sure I never woke up, conspiring with Vanessa about the timeline for my death. This is beyond medical ethics, Dr. Park said. This is criminal. We need to involve security, hospital administration, and the police immediately. But Jennifer shook her head. If we move too fast, he'll lawyer up and claim the recordings are inadmissible. We need Catherine to wake up. We need her to be able to testify to what she heard. Can you bring her out of the coma? Dr. Park hesitated. Medically, yes. She's healed enough that we can reduce sedation and see if she'll regain consciousness. But if she has cognitive damage, if she can't remember or communicate clearly, the recordings alone might not be enough to convict him. She's in there, Jennifer insisted. She's fighting. Give her the chance. That night, Dr. Park began reducing my sedation. Jennifer stayed at my bedside, holding my hand, whispering encouragement. Come back, Catherine. Your kids need you. Your family needs you. And we need you to nail this bastard to the wall. The process of waking from a medically induced coma isn't like in movies where you suddenly open your eyes and sit up. It's gradual, frustrating, like swimming up from the bottom of the ocean. I'd have moments of awareness, then slide back into darkness. I'd hear voices, then lose them. Time became meaningless. But on the morning of day 19, I did something I hadn't done in almost 3 weeks. I opened my eyes. The ICU room came into focus slowly. Harsh fluorescent lights, beeping machines, a figure sitting beside me. Jennifer. When she saw my eyes open, tears streamed down her face. Welcome back, she whispered. Catherine, can you hear me? Can you understand what I'm saying? I tried to speak but couldn't. My throat was raw from the breathing tube. I tried to nod, but my neck muscles were weak. So I did the only thing I could do. I squeezed her hand. Jennifer's face lit up. Oh, thank God, you're awake. You're really awake. Dr. Park! She called out, her voice urgent. She's conscious. She's responding. Dr. Park rushed in with 2 other doctors. They shone lights in my eyes, asked me questions, tested my reflexes. My responses were weak but present. I could follow commands, squeeze my hand, wiggle my toes, blink twice. I was awake. I was back. Catherine, Dr. Park said gently, do you know your name? I tried to speak. See, Irene. The word came out as a rasp, barely audible, but it was there. Do you know where you are? Hospital. Do you remember what happened? Car accident. Dr. Park smiled with relief. Your memory is intact. That's excellent. Catherine, there's something we need to discuss with you. But first, we need to make sure you're stable. Can you rest for a few hours while we monitor you? I shook my head weakly. Marcus? Your husband? Do you want us to call him and tell him you're awake? No. The word came out stronger than I expected. No. Dan Ger. Dr. Park leaned closer. Catherine, are you saying your husband is dangerous? I squeezed Jennifer's hand with what little strength I had and whispered, He tried to kill me. Heard everything. The room went silent. Dr. Park's expression hardened. Jennifer, get hospital security. No one, and I mean no one, tells Marcus Wells that his wife is awake. Catherine is now under protective custody in this ICU. Jennifer nodded and rushed out. Dr. Park stayed beside me, his hand on my shoulder. Catherine, you're safe now. We're going to make sure nothing happens to you. Jennifer recorded conversations between your husband and his accomplice. Combined with your testimony, we have enough to involve law enforcement, but I need to know. Can you tell us everything you heard? Everything you remember? I nodded weakly. Every word. And for the first time in 19 days, I felt something other than terror. I felt hope. I felt power. Marcus thought I was helpless. He thought I'd never wake up, or if I did, I'd be too damaged to remember or communicate. He was wrong. And he was about to discover just how wrong when his comatose wife came back from the dead to destroy him. Within 2 hours of waking up, my hospital room had transformed into a command center. Hospital security posted a guard outside my door with strict instructions. No visitors except pre-approved family. And absolutely no Marcus Wells under any circumstances. Dr. Park contacted the hospital's legal team and risk management department. Jennifer downloaded all her recordings onto a secure drive. And Detective Sarah Morrison from the Boston Police Department's Major Crimes Unit arrived to take my statement. Detective Morrison was a woman in her early 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She pulled a chair close to my bedside and spoke gently. Mrs. Wells, I know you've been through hell. Take your time. Tell me everything. My voice was still weak, my throat raw, but I was determined to get every detail right. I told her about Marcus whispering at my bedside on day 3, admitting he needed me to die for the insurance money, about overhearing his conversations with Vanessa Chen about accelerating the timeline, about his attempts to convince my family and Dr. Park to withdraw life support, about his plan to increase my sedation to ensure I never woke up. Detective Morrison recorded everything, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Did you recognize the woman's voice? This Vanessa Chen? His assistant from his firm. They've been having an affair. And you're certain he said he wanted you dead specifically for financial gain? $4 million, life insurance, double for accidental death, plus my grandmother's inheritance, $800,000, and investments. Detective Morrison exchanged glances with her partner, Detective James Rodriguez. That's motive, means, and opportunity. With the recordings as corroboration, we have a solid case. Jennifer handed over her flash drive. I have approximately 40 hours of recordings from the past week. Conversations between Marcus Wells and Vanessa Chen. Conversations between Marcus and doctors. And this one, she pulled up a specific file. This is from 2 nights ago when Marcus explicitly told Dr. Park he wanted to explore comfort care only options, which is code for withdrawing treatment. Dr. Park stepped forward. Detective, I need to say for the record that I never had any suspicion Mr. Wells was being anything other than a devoted husband making difficult medical decisions. He was convincing. But the recordings show he was systematically trying to manipulate medical staff into ending his wife's life. Attempted murder, Detective Morrison said flatly. Conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, possibly more charges as we investigate. Mrs. Wells, we need to build a case that's absolutely airtight. That means we need you to be willing to testify. But it also means we need to be strategic about when and how we arrest your husband. What do you mean? I asked. If we arrest him now, his lawyers will know we have evidence. They'll start crafting defenses, suppressing recordings, questioning your cognitive reliability after a traumatic brain injury. But if we wait, if we let him think you're still in a coma or that you've woken up with severe brain damage, we can catch him in the act of attempted murder. We can record him trying again. I felt cold dread wash over me. You want me to be bait? I want to catch him red-handed, Detective Morrison said. Mrs. Wells, attempted murder is hard to prove without catching someone in the act. Conspiracy charges based on recorded conversations can be defended as just talk. But if we can get Marcus to actually do something that directly endangers your life while we're watching and recording, that's irrefutable. That's life in prison. Dr. Park immediately protested. Absolutely not. You're asking me to deliberately put my patient in danger for the sake of evidence? Not in real danger, Detective, Rodriguez clarified. We'd have plainclothes officers in the ICU at all times. We'd have video surveillance. The moment Marcus tried anything, we'd intervene. But we need him to try. I looked at Jennifer, who'd been silent through this exchange. What do you think? She sat on the edge of my bed carefully. Catherine, I think these detectives are right. If Marcus gets a good lawyer, he'll paint those recordings as taken out of context, as stressed conversations between a man and his mistress about difficult medical decisions. He'll say he was just venting, that he never actually intended to harm you. But if we catch him trying to inject something into your IV, or messing with your ventilator settings, or convincing a doctor to administer a fatal dose of medication, that's undeniable. That's attempted murder on video. My physical therapist cleared me for short conversations, but every word was still an effort. Still, I knew what I needed to do. How long? 72 hours, Detective Morrison said. We tell your family, your parents and sister, not Marcus, that you've woken up but with severe cognitive impairment. Brain damage? We tell Marcus that you're awake but don't recognize anyone, can't speak coherently, and the prognosis is poor. We plant the idea that the merciful thing would be to withdraw treatment, and we watch what he does. And if he does nothing, then we still arrest him based on Jennifer's recordings and your testimony. But it'll be a harder case to win. Catherine, the choice is yours. You don't have to do this. I thought about Oliver and Lily, my children who'd been told their mother might never wake up. I thought about all the women whose husbands were plotting against them, who might never get the evidence they needed to escape. I thought about Marcus, who'd smiled at our wedding and promised to protect me, who'd held my hand and whispered that he loved me, all while planning my death. I'll do it, I said. I'll be the bait. Dr. Park looked uncomfortable but nodded. I'll adjust her medications to make it appear she's more sedated than she is. I'll brief the ICU staff on the plan, only people we absolutely trust, and I'll have a conversation with Mr. Wells about how his wife has woken up but is profoundly impaired, possibly permanently. Detective Morrison stood. We'll wire the room, multiple cameras and microphones. Plainclothes officers will be stationed as hospital staff. If he brings Vanessa Chen, we'll record that too. And the moment he makes any move to harm you, Catherine, we shut it down. You have my word. Jennifer squeezed my hand. I'll be here too, every shift. I'm not leaving you alone with him. My mother and father were brought in and briefed on the plan. My mother was horrified. You want my daughter to pretend to be brain damaged so her husband will try to kill her? This is insane. Mom, I said, my voice getting stronger with each hour awake. He's already tried to kill me. We just need to prove it so he goes to prison and can never hurt us again. My father, the retired detective, understood immediately. They're building a case, Joan. And Catherine's right. This is the best way to ensure he never gets near her or the grandkids again. I don't like it, but I understand it. My sister Jessica was brought in last. When she saw me truly awake, she burst into tears. Oh my God, Catherine, we thought we'd lost you. Almost did, but I'm fighting back now. Over the next 24 hours, we prepared for the confrontation that would either put Marcus in prison or expose the plot. Dr. Park coached me on how to appear brain-damaged. Vacant eyes, slurred speech, no recognition of people. Detective Morrison positioned her team. Jennifer coordinated with trusted ICU staff. And I practiced being the broken woman Marcus wanted me to be. "You're doing great," Jennifer assured me. "Tomorrow, when he comes in, you're going to blow his case wide open." I squeezed her hand. "Thank you for everything. You saved my life." "You saved your own life by fighting to wake up. I just made sure you had the evidence to back up your story. Now let's make sure that bastard pays for what he tried to do." On March 23, 2016, day 21 after my accident, Dr. Park called Marcus to the hospital for an emergency family meeting. He told him that I'd woken up, but that the news wasn't good. "Your wife has emerged from the coma, but she's showing signs of severe cognitive impairment. She doesn't recognize family members. She can't speak coherently. The damage appears to be extensive and likely permanent." Marcus arrived within an hour. I watched him on the hidden camera feed that Detective Morrison had set up in a mobile command center down the hall. He walked into the hospital with perfectly performed grief on his face, but as he stepped into the elevator alone, his expression shifted to something else entirely. Barely concealed relief. My family was gathered in the consultation room when Marcus entered. My mother was crying. My father stood with his arms crossed, watching Marcus carefully. He'd been briefed by Detective Morrison and knew what to look for. My sister sat in a chair, dabbing her eyes with tissue. Dr. Park delivered the devastating news. "Mr. Wells, I'm so sorry. Catherine has woken up, but the traumatic brain injury has caused significant damage. She's awake, but not responsive in meaningful ways. She doesn't recognize faces. Her speech is limited to monosyllables and doesn't appear to be purposeful. She can't follow complex commands." "What does that mean for her future?" Marcus asked, his voice appropriately somber. "It's possible she'll improve with intensive rehabilitation. But Mr. Wells, I have to be honest with you. The level of impairment we're seeing suggests that she may never recover her previous cognitive function. She may never be the Catherine you knew." I watched Marcus's face on the monitor. For just a fraction of a second, his mouth twitched up in a suppressed smile. Then it was gone, replaced by devastation. "Can I see her?" "Of course, but please prepare yourself. This will be very difficult." My family filed in first. My mother came to my bedside, took my hand, and spoke through tears. "Catherine, sweetheart, it's Mom. Can you hear me?" I stared through her, my eyes unfocused, exactly as Dr. Park had coached me. I let my mouth hang slightly open. When I spoke, I slurred the words. "Ooh, where?" "It's Mom, honey. Your mother. Do you know who I am?" I blinked slowly, showing no recognition. "Dear Ed," my mother sobbed. My father put his arm around her. "Joan, let's give Catherine some rest. Maybe tomorrow she'll be more alert." Then Marcus stepped forward. Detective Morrison and her team watched from their monitors, recording every angle. Jennifer stood in the corner dressed as a regular ICU nurse, ready to intervene if needed. "Catherine," Marcus said softly, approaching my bed. "Baby, it's me. It's Marcus, your husband. Can you hear me?" I turned my head toward his voice but kept my eyes unfocused. Do you know who I am?" No response, just blank staring. Marcus looked at Dr. Park. "Is she in pain?" "We're managing her pain with medication. But Dr. Chen, there's something else we need to discuss. Given the severity of her cognitive impairment and the poor prognosis, we need to talk about long-term care options. With her living will and your healthcare proxy authority, we need to know your wishes regarding treatment intensity." This was the setup. The bait laid out perfectly. Marcus's expression shifted to thoughtful concern. "What are you asking me, doctor?" "I'm asking whether you want us to continue aggressive treatment or whether we should transition to comfort care. Given that Catherine is unlikely to recover meaningful cognitive function, some families choose to focus on quality of remaining life rather than quantity." "Comfort care," Marcus repeated slowly. That's withdrawing treatment? In cases where recovery is unlikely and the patient's previously expressed wishes were to not be kept alive in a diminished state, yes. It means we keep her comfortable but don't take extraordinary measures to prolong life. I watched Marcus's face carefully. This was his moment. This was his opportunity to finish what the car accident had started. Would he take it? How long would if we went with comfort care, what would happen? We'd remove the feeding tube, decrease medications, and let nature take its course. With her injuries and level of impairment, it would likely be a matter of days. Days. Marcus would be free in days. The insurance payout would be his in days. Vanessa would be his in days. I need to think about this, Marcus said carefully. This is my wife. I need to make sure I'm doing what she would want, not what's easiest for me. Excellent. He was playing it perfectly, the devoted husband agonizing over an impossible decision. But Detective Morrison knew what would come next. After my family left and visiting hours ended, Marcus stayed late as he'd been doing all along. He told the nurses he wanted time alone with his wife. Jennifer conveniently stepped out to check on another patient, leaving Marcus alone with me. Or so he thought. 5 hidden cameras recorded everything. 2 plainclothes detectives were positioned just outside the ICU, ready to intervene. Marcus pulled a chair close to my bed and took my hand. To anyone watching, it would look like a heartbroken husband holding vigil. But then he leaned in close and whispered, and the high-sensitivity microphones caught every word. "Catherine, I don't know if you can hear me in there. I hope you can't. But just in case, I want you to know that I won. The car accident was lucky, but this brain damage, this is perfect. Better than I could have planned. Everyone will support my decision to let you go. They'll call me compassionate. They'll say I'm honoring your wishes." I kept my eyes vacant, my breathing steady. Every fiber of my being wanted to scream at him, to let him know I could hear every vile word, but I held perfectly still. Tomorrow, I'm going to tell Dr. Park that I want to transition to comfort care. I'll cry. I'll say it's the hardest decision of my life. And then they'll remove your feeding tube and decrease your medications, and you'll die within a week. Natural causes. No one can blame me. The insurance will pay out. Vanessa and I will wait a few months. Then we'll get married. Your kids will adjust. They're young. And I'll finally have the life I deserve instead of being trapped with a boring teacher who spent her nights grading papers. That's when he made his fatal mistake. He pulled something from his pocket, a syringe filled with clear liquid. "But waiting a week seems long. You might improve. Someone might question my decision, so I'm going to help things along." "This is insulin, Catherine. Lots of insulin. It'll drop your blood sugar so low that your brain will shut down completely. They'll think it's just another complication from your injuries. And even if they test for it, your body produces insulin naturally. They'll never prove I gave you extra." He uncapped the syringe and reached for my IV port. "Freeze! Boston police!" Detective Morrison burst through the door with 2 uniformed officers behind her. Marcus jumped back, the syringe still in his hand, his face going white with shock. "Marcus Wells, you are under arrest for attempted murder. Drop the syringe now." This is a misunderstanding. We have you on video and audio, Mr. Wells. We have recordings of every conversation you've had for the past week. We have you admitting you're trying to kill your wife for insurance money, and we just caught you with insulin you were about to inject into her IV. You have the, right to remain silent." As Detective Morrison read him his Miranda rights, I opened my eyes fully, turned my head, and looked directly at Marcus. His expression shifted from panic to confusion to absolute horror as he realized the truth. "You," he whispered. "You were awake. You heard everything." "Every word," I said clearly, my voice strong. "Every single word you said, and so did they." Detective Rodriguez handcuffed Marcus while Officer Chen, no relation to Vanessa, seized the syringe as evidence. "This will be tested. If it's insulin as you claimed, you just committed attempted murder in front of 5 witnesses with 6 cameras recording." Vanessa Chen was arrested in the hospital lobby where she'd been waiting. Her phone records showed text messages to Marcus. "Is it done yet? Did you give her the injection? Text me when she's dead." My mother, father, and sister were brought back in as Marcus was led away in handcuffs. My mother ran to my bedside. "Catherine, you're actually okay? You can really hear us?" "I'm okay, Mom. I'm actually okay." She collapsed into tears of relief. My father stood watching Marcus being escorted out, and his expression was pure satisfaction. "That's how you catch a criminal. Good work, Catherine." Dr. Park approached my bed, smiling for the first time in days. "Mrs. Wells, I have to say, you are the strongest patient I've ever treated, and I'm sorry I doubted whether you should do this. You just saved your own life." Jennifer squeezed my hand. "We did it. We got him." "We did. Thank you for everything." As Marcus was loaded into a police car outside, screaming about his rights and demanding his lawyer, I lay in my hospital bed surrounded by my real family. The people who actually loved me and felt something I hadn't felt in years, safe. Marcus thought he could kill me and get away with it. He thought I was helpless. He thought wrong. The legal proceedings moved swiftly once the evidence was presented. Marcus and Vanessa were both charged with conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, insurance fraud, and multiple lesser charges. The DA's office called it one of the most clear-cut cases they'd ever seen. "We have audio recordings of the conspiracy. We have video of the actual attempt. We have the defendant holding the murder weapon with his fingerprints all over it. We have text messages planning the crime. And we have a conscious victim who can testify to everything she heard. This is a prosecutor's dream case," Assistant DA Michael Torres told me. The insulin in the syringe Marcus tried to inject was tested. It contained 500 units of concentrated insulin, enough to send anyone into fatal hypoglycemic shock. Medical experts testified that if he'd succeeded in injecting it, I would have died within hours, and without a specific test for insulin overdose, it likely would have been written off as a complication from my brain injury. Marcus's defense attorneys tried every angle. They claimed I was cognitively impaired and my testimony couldn't be trusted. Dr. Park demolished that argument with his neurological evaluations, showing I had full cognitive function. They tried to suppress Jennifer's recordings as illegally obtained. The judge ruled that as a one-party consent state, the recordings were completely admissible since I was present and aware during the conversations, making me the consenting party. They attempted to argue Marcus never actually injected the insulin, so it wasn't attempted murder. The DA played the video of Marcus with the uncapped syringe literally reaching for my IV port while explaining how he was going to kill me, followed by his arrest mid-attempt. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Marcus Wells was sentenced to 35 years in prison without possibility of parole for the first 20. The judge called his actions a profound betrayal of marital trust and a calculated, cold-blooded attempt to murder a vulnerable woman for financial gain. When the sentence was read, Marcus actually cried, not from remorse, but from self-pity that his plan had failed. Vanessa Chen received 20 years for conspiracy to commit murder and accessory to attempted murder. Her legal career was destroyed, her future gone. The text messages she'd sent encouraging Marcus to hurry up and finish it showed her active participation in planning my death. The financial justice was equally satisfying. The life insurance company voided the policy entirely based on the criminal fraud attempt and then sued Marcus for legal fees. I received a $2.5 million settlement from the drunk driver's insurance company for the accident itself. Marcus was ordered to pay all my medical bills and rehabilitative care costs, over $400,000, from his own assets. His investment firm fired him immediately, and he lost his professional licenses. Most importantly, I received full custody of Oliver and Lily with 0 visitation rights for Marcus. A child psychologist testified that allowing the children contact with their father who'd attempted to murder their mother would be psychologically damaging. Mr. Wells has demonstrated that he values money over his own wife's life, the psychologist's report stated. He cannot be trusted with the well-being of his children. My divorce was finalized within 6 months. I kept the house, my grandmother's full inheritance, all marital assets, and received substantial alimony until I could fully return to work. Marcus kept nothing but his prison cell and the knowledge that he'd destroyed his entire life for greed. My physical recovery took longer than the legal proceedings. I spent 2 months in intensive rehabilitation, learning to walk without a limp, to move without pain, to rebuild the strength the coma had stolen. But I recovered fully. No cognitive deficits, no permanent physical disabilities. Marcus had failed to damage me permanently. Boston Public Schools welcomed me back to teaching with a promotion to English department chair at my school. The administration hailed me as a survivor who exemplified strength, and my story became a cautionary tale used in training about domestic violence and coercive relationships. Jennifer Reyes was honored by the Massachusetts Nurses Association for her ethical courage in recording and reporting Marcus's actions. Nurse Reyes saw evil and refused to look away, the award citation read. Her actions directly saved a patient's life. She and I remained close friends, bonded by the extraordinary circumstances that brought us together. Perhaps the most healing part of my recovery was my conversation with Oliver and Lily, who were now 12 and 9. They needed to understand what their father had done in age-appropriate terms. I sat them both down 6 months after Marcus's sentencing. "Your dad made very bad choices," I told them. "He decided that money was more important than people, even people he was supposed to love. What he did wasn't your fault, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Sometimes adults make terrible decisions, and kids shouldn't have to carry that weight." Oliver, wise beyond his years, asked, "Are you mad at him?" "I'm not mad anymore. I'm sad that he became someone capable of hurting people. But mostly, I'm grateful that I survived and that I get to be here with you too." Lily hugged me tight. "I'm glad you didn't die, Mommy." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." My relationship with my family deepened. My parents moved closer to help with the kids during my recovery. My sister visited monthly. We became a tight unit, bound by the shared trauma of almost losing each other. I started dating again 2 years later, carefully, with eyes wide open for any red flags. But I refused to let Marcus's betrayal make me cynical about love. Evil people exist, but so do good ones. Jennifer was good. Dr. Park was good. Detective Morrison was good. The world had more good than bad. My life now is peaceful in ways I never experienced during my marriage. I wake up safe. I make my own decisions. I control my own narrative. And every day, I'm grateful for the nurse who cared enough to record, the detective who believed me, and my own stubborn will to survive. Marcus thought he could kill me and get away with it. He thought I was helpless. He discovered too late that I was anything but. 3 years have passed since that night in the ICU when Marcus tried to inject fatal insulin into my IV. I've had time to process, heal, and understand what happened to me and how I survived. These are the lessons I've learned, lessons I hope might save someone else's life. First, trust your instincts. When Marcus started talking about excessive life insurance, when he seemed almost pleased at my grandmother's funeral, when he pushed me to do dangerous activities, my gut told me something was wrong. I rationalized and dismissed those feelings because I didn't want to believe my husband could hurt me. But our instincts exist for a reason. If something feels off in your relationship, investigate. Don't assume you're paranoid. Second, document everything. Jennifer's recordings saved my life. If you suspect your partner is planning something terrible, start gathering evidence quietly. Save emails, record conversations where legal, keep copies of financial documents in a safe place your partner can't access. Screenshot suspicious texts. Evidence is the difference between being believed and being dismissed as emotional or irrational. Third, financial motive is real. Marcus didn't try to kill me because he hated me. He tried to kill me because I was worth more dead than alive. Life insurance, inheritances, and assets create powerful incentives for bad people. If someone pressures you to sign large insurance policies or change beneficiaries without clear explanation, ask hard questions. Consult your own attorney. Protect yourself financially. Fourth, allies are everything. I couldn't have survived without Jennifer Reyes, who recognized the warning signs and took action even when it could have cost her job. Without Dr. Park, who believed me when I woke up. Without Detective Morrison, who built an airtight case. Don't try to fight battles like this alone. Find people you can trust, friends, family, professionals, and let them help you. Fifth, being a victim doesn't mean being helpless. I was literally in a coma, completely physically vulnerable, and I still found ways to fight back. I focused every bit of will on waking up. I communicated through my heart rate. I worked with law enforcement to catch Marcus in the act. Circumstances might make you vulnerable, but vulnerability doesn't equal powerlessness. Most importantly, I learned that survival is worth fighting for. There were moments in that ICU when giving up would have been easier, when the effort of consciousness felt like too much, when listening to Marcus plot my death made me want to retreat into darkness. But I fought anyway, for my children, for myself, for every woman who's ever been told she's worthless. To everyone watching this who recognizes elements of their own relationship, excessive life insurance, partners who seem disappointed when you recover from illness, conversations about what would happen if something happened to you, please pay attention. Please document. Please reach out for help. You're not paranoid. You're not overreacting. And your life is absolutely worth saving. Thank you for watching my story. If it resonated with you, please subscribe for more stories of survival and justice. And if you're experiencing what I went through, please contact domestic violence resources or law enforcement. You deserve to live. You deserve to be safe. Remember, being in a vulnerable position doesn't mean you're helpless. Fight. Document. Survive. Your life matters more than you know.